Danny, this is crazy, man. You got everybody thinking that we're kissing sisters out. See, I mean, at this point, Danny, you're drunk. Like, you know how everybody says when you tie, it's like a brother and sister kissing. Like,
no,
you never heard that? Oh, you're a wild, bro.
That's the battered way of looking at things, though, right? Because
we're the battered herons, Ian.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Chris, the herons are back. Welcome, everyone, to episode number 49 of the Battered Herons podcast. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Granada, alongside me, Mr. KBD, Chris Duran, as usual. How are you doing, sir? Oh,
I'm good. I don't know if my internet's going to be any good.
Oh, well, that's not good.
I am awake. And again, I don't know if my internet is going to do good or not. But the good news is that I ordered like an additional router that might make my internet better. So we'll see.
An additional router. Okay. That sounds good. I mean, I don't know what that means or how an additional router is going to help you, but I'm all for it because your internet absolutely sucks. Anyway, it is Wednesday. We haven't been with you guys for a week. It is Woo Wednesday. It is Ted Lasso Wednesday. I'm wearing my Ted Lasso Believe shirt. It's a good time, right? We had a nice week off where Inter Miami didn't lose, so everybody's in good spirits. And we have an opponent coming up, which a lot of people are thinking is a little overrated because they're currently in the playoffs, although they haven't looked that impressive. But to talk about that, we have a special guest. We have Bruno from the Houston Dynamic Dynamos. Whoa, what are you doing all the way down there? Here you are. What's going on, Bruno?
Living the dream, man. Living the dream. You know, like Dallas Cowboys, man. First of all, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, so the Cowboys suck. And I'm a season ticket holder for the Houston Texans because that's the closest thing I got here. But they also suck. So,
Bruno, you just suck all around, man.
Oh man, I don't know about all that, but yeah.
Well, one thing I forgot to tell you before we started is I love that your name is Bruno. Okay. It's not just biased because my middle name is Bruno and my father's name is Bruno. Oh. So it might be a little bit biased. Okay. So if everybody says we don't talk about Bruno, get out of here. We always talk about Bruno.
Look, man, you know, what I like about that is that, you know, like in being Bruno as the first name coming to America, the Bruno people knew was either way it was a dog's name or it was Bruno with the guy that did Borat, the movie. And I don't know.
Yeah, which that's like a complete opposite.
Yes. So when that Bruno, we don't talk about it, came out, I was thankful for it. And then one day I'm at McDonald's drive-thru and someone sees my card or whatever, gives it back to me, and they say, "We don't talk about you." I was like, "What'd you say? What'd you say?" So I got pissed off. I was like, "What do you mean, man? Like, I'm just trying to get a McDouble up in here, you know?" And it was like, "Oh, the song, man." And I was like, "Oh, okay, my bad, man, my bad." So, so things evolved for having a name of Bruno in this country, from a dog's name to a weird movie to now a Disney movie. It's completely
for sure.
So we appreciate you being on. Well, we've had this plan for a while. For those of you listening, I know that you might have seen Bruno sledding around earlier this week. So he's been on a few Inter Miami podcasts already, which is all good. We love them all.
Which good for you, Bruno. You get out there.
Yeah, man. You get out there and you spread yourself out there, especially promote that website, because before we usually wait to the end of the episode to let you promote your stuff. But the Houston Dynamic Dynamo GoDaddySites.com. If you get on there, awesome website. He breaks things down in such detail that is awesome. Even if you don't like Houston, he breaks it all down in quite detail. So I definitely suggest you go out there and you click on those links.
Appreciate it, man. Maybe I'm a fancy escort. I don't know about a slut. Maybe a fancy escort feels better. If someone else asked me for help, I mean, even a little bit ago, I had the Charlotte FC guy. He reached out to me after he saw some articles, and he was like, "Hey, man, I wonder if you can break out for me, the Charlotte FC, so maybe I can talk about it on some stuff." So I'm going to gladly write some stuff up, look at it too. It's not that I know every team out of my head, because I don't. But like I'm always available to help. It's just
That's
like
awesome.
we all supposed to be in this together, man, not against each other.
For sure, and we're
Yes.
trying to grow the MLS, the league itself, right? The more people that get into it, and the more love we share, the more we grow, and that's ultimately the goal. So, and we love all
That's
the podcasts down here in Miami.
There was actually something that I talked about this week on my podcast, because we've been struggling with Ben Olsen, our coach up here. He's a little bit, excuse my language, but he's an asshole towards media. And he doesn't, and I'll be honest with you, he shies people away from even wanting to be there because they're too scared of asking a question. And it's just like we are supposed to be in this together, not against each other if we are to promote it, because at the end of the day, you win, I win. The more people that listen to it, the more revenue there is, the more money is involved, and the more interest is involved. And at the end of the day, most of us are doing these without even getting paid, man. It's just pure love, and
For sure.
and not trying to fight one another. So I don't know, man. It just doesn't make sense to me. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Keep it moving.
I promise you that Chris would go on there and ask questions happily, because Chris is dying to go into a press conference and ask questions.
Yes, I am.
You might only last one press conference then.
I'll walk in with a Dallas shirt.
Oh man, you're gonna get booted before you even get there. That dress code.
All right.
You're gonna have a bouncer.
All right. So we have this game coming up on Saturday. We had the week off, and it's a different team from just 2 weeks ago, right? Because we got rid of what we thought was going to be a young stud for us in the future, Bryce Duke. We traded away our winger, Ariel Lassiter, and I mean we were pretty deep at those positions as it is. So I mean it's not a big loss, I guess. But we gained a center back, and we signed a number 6 CDM, Dixon Arroyo. So our team's going to look a little different, and we're going to get into that a little later. But first, we want to get into the Houston Dynamo. 7 games into the season. How has Houston looked? Because at first glance, you see they're a playoff team. They're the 7th seed. They haven't lost at home. I don't think they've conceded a goal at home yet this year. So what is your assessment of the Houston Dynamo 7 games into the season?
First of all, it feels like any team can make the playoffs the way they expanded the playoffs. So I don't know necessarily if we can exclude anybody out at this point. I think that a lot of teams are waiting for their summer transfer, to hit a second cylinder
to make
on
that late run.
Yeah, and I don't think that even the last team is not going to be too far off from that 9 spot that will make to the playoffs. And I think a lot of teams are somewhat saving some money to really try to hire someone, and they're still trying to configure out their roster. I mean, you guys are really making some changes still. The Dynamo currently, I've heard some rumors as far as saying that we are looking for 3 different players. So there's they're still working out, and I mean, we already switched up 15 players from last season. So we are a work in progress, to be honest with you. When you ask me what I feel about Houston so far, I've said it at the second game of the season. We are at least making the 9 spot. We are making the playoffs this season, and I think
you do think so.
I think so, and it would make it the first time in about 6 years that will happen. So for someone that is being accustomed to be the butt of the joke in the league with San Jose, I think that you take it happier than before. I guess when you're accustomed to suck, then I guess this is better than nothing. Houston is normally known to have decent first half of the seasons, and when the summer hits, things get a little bit worse. And I think that this start is a little bit slower than in some previous seasons in terms of points so far. So if you're looking at just that, then it's choppy, it's bad. This is a tale of two teams per se, one away versus the one they play at home. We finally got the first point of the season away with the tie, but man, it was one of the ugliest soccer one-sided games I've seen.
Well, you know what that kind of reminds me of, with all of the explanation that you're doing, it kind of reminds me of what we went through as a team for us. Yeah. Where we kind of went through this huge rebuild last year. We got rid of a lot of players. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we ended up making the playoffs with a strong push towards the end. Not, one of the last seeds, but, somewhere in the middle. I could see that definitely, for sure. Yeah.
But I think with MLS, I think that it's kind of tailored to everybody waiting for the summer, because unfortunately that's when all the big leagues in Europe are over, right? That's the off season. So that's when the real transfer market opens up, because not many players are leaving their teams that are making a push in Champions League or whatever it may be in January, right? You're going to wait to kind of play out that season and then move on in the summertime. So I think that's almost like a disadvantage that the MLS has found itself in, because a lot of teams have to wait for that. If we could sign players in January, I'm sure we would load up before the season started, but there's not many options in January. You have to wait for the summer, unfortunately. So it's a pro and a con. And I did want to give a big up to Lucas real quick that said, afternoon, what's going on, Lucas? So you said they haven't lost at home, but they haven't won on the road. And honestly, the only reason I think you guys got a point last week was Steve Clark saved your asses consistently throughout that game, because the Red Bulls were going crazy. So, what is the difference between home and away?
Energy. Okay. And you know what? It starts with energy. It's I can really tell there's mispositioning as well. You see a lot of players being mispositioned on the road. There's like some mental breakdowns throughout the game, and they create a lot of gaps between lines, which allow the other opponent to really take advantage of those spaces and wide open shots outside the box, to be honest with you. And that's the biggest miscue. Last game we didn't have Herrera, and a lot of people are glorifying Bassi, the new signing, and he's been scoring already 5 goals this season, 4 of them in penalty kicks. So, I mean, honestly, whatever, 1 in regular play, and then, you can give it to Herrera.
But that's more than half your goals.
Yes, it is.
You have 9 all season. Yeah, you have 9 all season.
Like if there's one, if I'm betting money, I will bet there will probably be a penalty this game coming up. If Houston is involved, there's going to be a penalty for or against. It's going to happen.
Well, and what's funny is that I saw you earlier on one of our local podcasts. Shout out to Peter Brown and Uncle Ed having you guys on, and I noticed that you mentioned that you probably do see that there could be a penalty kick or a score off a penalty. But one thing that I remember, Danny, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that I remember when we ended up obtaining Miller is that he's one of the most disciplined defenders. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you have him, and on top of that, you have Christoph, who also is a very extremely experienced player who's also disciplined. So it's kind of tough unless he's going to Yedlin, because Yedlin, he's kind of a firecracker, right? Unless he's going towards Yedlin's side, then maybe you might have a shot at a penalty. But anywhere else, I don't know if that's going to be possible.
We haven't conceded any PKs this year. I'm sorry to cut you off. Yeah. We haven't conceded any penalty kicks. And I don't know if Miller's going to be playing this week. I hope he is. I haven't heard any update on if he's going to be playing or not. If he is, he only had committed, I think it was like 16 fouls all of last year. He had 4 yellow cards all of last year. And for somebody that was that aggressive and that good defensively, it's kind of surprising to hear that stat. What were you going to say, Bruno?
Yeah, no, it's funny though, but there's something mentally that makes players scared of committing a penalty when they go through so many games or they're scouting a team before the match that there is so many penalties for or against. I noticed that this past game when I was watching, because we basically defended the entire game, right? We were just being suffocated the entire game. I noticed that we had penalties against us, such as handball, and now I noticed the stance of the players really making sure that the arms were behind the body while they were rushing towards the defender. And I saw this body language of these players being too carefully. If New York had the ball, they weren't rushing to make any tackle. They were just going back, and not putting any cleat in there, any foot in there, because they were too scared. If they were going to do that, it was going to be a penalty call. This is completely different from what I've seen in previous weeks, Houston defending. A little bit more aggressive, a little bit more screw it. We're going to go for it regardless. But they have been, I see that they have been psychologically affected by being in so many games where there's so many penalties. And I mean, as a player, as I'm studying film and I'm watching it and I'm looking at the stats and they're breaking down the stats, you might be very disciplined, but there's going to be something on the back of your head when you're going to go to those plays, knowing that you're involved in a team that there's so many controversy related to penalties that it's going to be like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I just need to be a little bit more careful against this team because these referees, even the referees involved. They study these games and these players before they go in there. So there's something that, I don't know, man. It's just something interesting, and that goes into it. And keep in mind, the home team usually has an advantage over the referees.
But you know what? I don't know if we are the only team. There has to be other ones. But we haven't had a penalty for or against us all season, which is surprising. 7 games into the year, not one. Now, we were supposed to have one in the 97th minute of the last game that would have given us a point if we would have converted, but that didn't happen. We lost the game. It is what it is. But I wanted to get into, now that we started talking about how Houston has been defending, I wanted to get into more or less the tactics and what formation you guys come out in, because my understanding is that you guys are a counterattacking team. You guys kind of just play back, maybe a low block, and then take your chance to counterattack. I mean, we were very aggressive. I don't know if we're going to change now, because something has to change. I'm assuming we're not going to come out and look exactly like we've been looking over the last 5 games. But up until now, we've been very aggressive with our wings, kind of pushing up really far. And because we didn't have a number 6 to help defensively, that left us open in the back. But how does Houston look tactically? What formation do you guys play, and how more or less do you guys look?
So on defense, you're looking at I don't know. There's no team here that only sticks to one formation with and without the ball in the MLS.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to get these out of the way, because a lot of people just think that, it's 4-3-3, it's 4-4-2, and that's what it is. It's not. It's not what it is. There's one with the ball versus one without the ball. So when it's a 4-3-3, when we play defense, that's what you're going to see. A lot of times, sometimes it goes to a 4-4-2. Okay. When we are fully committed to defense, then you're going to be seeing a 4-5-1. Okay, so they're going to bulk up the middle up in there with 5 midfielders, just as a way to expect. And Arturo is going to be the number 5 on the field. Okay, he's going to be in front of the 4-back line, and he's going to be oftentimes that joker around that 5 line. Okay, he's going to be moving around back and forth depending where the ball is, and he's going to be aggressive with it. As a matter of fact, I want to say, if there's a signing that has been amazing so far this season, he's definitely Arturo for the Houston Dynamo. I mean, this guy you don't even notice he's on the field a lot of times. He's one of those players that does everything so good that you just don't notice. He takes the ball, and then he usually combines to the counter to Herrera, and then Herrera is the one that, as everyone goes forward on the field, is going to be looking for the spaces to hit a longer ball in counterattack. That's that, as you're saying. And we play a little bit more defensive and a little bit more out of the back. But as soon as we have the ball, ideally we counterattack with speed. I mean, Coco Carrasquilla is a guy that, he gets the ball and he just uses speed to try to dribble pass through you. The one thing that Houston has been struggling is actually being able to shoot it. We haven't had a lot of shots this season. And there's one too many dribbles. I think that's what it is. Like everyone seems scared to take a shot aside from Herrera. And I didn't look at the stats, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Herrera has about 75% of the shots of this team.
Well, I will tell you just real quick that you guys have the second least shot attempts this season. You guys have 73. The only team with less is Montreal with 69. And Montreal has only scored 2 goals all year. Yeah. So you guys don't shoot very often.
We don't. We are struggling to score in running plays. Which also attests for that. We don't shoot, and therefore there's no running plays. And think about it. 4 of those shots that you mentioned were PKs. So
exactly.
And that's one of the issues that we've been having, is that Corey Bird, or a striker, is Ben Olsen is very the way he's setting up this team first year, with Houston, he's looking for players that press all the time. Okay, that's what he wants. He wants pressing from the strikers. He's willing to sacrifice goals in order to ensure that everyone is committed to playing defense. And in his mind, yes.
And I did want to ask you about that, because Sebastian Ferreira isn't starting for you guys, and he's your DP.
Yes.
But because he doesn't press, they just have him on the bench?
He's out. He doesn't press. He's out. That's exactly
like a super sub.
No, not even a sub.
Not even.
The last 2 games he hasn't played. He didn't, not even a single minute the last 2 games, for example. And if you really dwell down to every single minute he played, I think he started the first 2 games of this season, if I'm not mistaken. And ever since then, he comes off 6 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes. until the game is over. And then we had Pat Onstad, our GM, this week, I think it was yesterday, he came out on an interview and he said that, well, everyone, it's not that he's lazy, he's just has to change a little bit the way he plays by committing press. And I'm like, nah, man, he's just not the style of player that he was looking for, Ben Olsen. And honestly, I don't think there's any way they're trying to shop him. That's just the way. They're not going to say it, but they're trying to shop it. And I don't think anyone is buying it. And I think that's right now they are in that limbo where it's like, well, let's wait. Pat Onstad right now is in Europe. Our GM is in Europe trying to recruit players, and I'm sure he's trying to, as a matter of fact, sell the players as well. And they're trying to set up the roster the way Ben Olsen wants. And he wants a striker that presses. He wants a workhorse out there on the front. And Sebastian Freire, he's a finisher. That's what he is. He was our top scorer last year, but he's a guy that is gonna just finish. He's not gonna work more than that and not try to. He's young. He's 25 years old, but changing a player like that in just 1 month, 2 months, it just doesn't happen.
And I see that. At the end of the day, it's like you said that everybody sort of judges it as the team plays a 4-3-3 consistently, right? But that's just because the game is that's what they're shown as starting the game. As the game develops, they play different formations. It's very similar to how it happens with us. We look at one formation in the pregame, and all of a sudden you have players in different places. But
all of a sudden you have Yedlin playing right center back.
Exactly. Exactly. And so when it comes to, I guess, the change in formation in the game, do you think that it benefits them to play 2 up top or 3 up top better than having a single person up top, especially since they're lacking in the scoring department?
That's an interesting question. And I'll tell you that most of the times what I see is more a 4-4-2. And then I see oftentimes the last 2 players being switched. Sometimes he's Bird and Carrasquilla. Sometimes he's even Franco if he's playing, and Bassi. Yeah. And I think there is a level of indiscipline. They're not being very well tactically disciplined.
Or they're not patient.
Yeah, and that's what and everybody's trying to do too much, which ends up doing nothing, if that makes sense. And it's sense. You get the ball, so let's go forward. Boom, boom, boom. Let's go. Try to dribble everybody. For example, with Coco, people like him, and it's great. But eventually you're gonna lose the dribble, and you commit a turnover, which is you had possession without trying to get a look at the goal. And there's in Corey Bird, he's being so criticized because he's playing for Sebas. He's being so criticized that the guy is not taking any shots. He's too scared. And sometimes his teammates don't even trust him anymore. Why am I giving the ball to this guy if he's going to receive it down there in the air and he's not going to take a look at the goalie? Let me just do another dribble then. And I've seen against LA, which we won 3-0, there was plays where you'll pass the ball.
How did you do that?
Well, let me tell you, in the 40th minute of the game, we had a penalty call against us for the Galaxy. Okay, at that point in time, Galaxy was dominating the game. Okay, there was a penalty call. The ball is already in the PK line. The players are already lined up outside the box. Right, everybody's ready, and then all of a sudden, the referee gets called to go check the VAR.
Oh, okay.
It checks the VAR.
And then it wasn't.
It's not a penalty, and the game completely shifted at that time. In
so
LA,
you were kicking your ass. I got you.
Yeah, they were. And then LA at that point, the season is not being very good whatsoever, right? So that completely changes the momentum of the game. Houston playing at home. Oh, let's go. And then next thing you know, we're able to unlock the game, and we got a penalty on our side too that was called. And then they got a red card because the player touched the referee. And to me, it was just like, hey, referee, can you see me? And then he was like,
"No." When he was checking the VAR.
Yes.
It was a perfect disaster.
Yes. To me, it was like he's just stepping to hey, he's desperate. But then it's like, oh, you can't do that. Red card. I mean, come on, man, don't be like that. He's not like slapping you, spanking you, or anything like that, Yeah. But the game completely changed, and then and they lost their minds, and then at that point was 1-0, it was a massacre out there,
Yeah.
And that's the interesting thing about the Dynamo. There's been one situation, one play, whatever it is, sometimes the referee, sometimes just a missed opportunity by the other team, where we are completely getting crushed in the game at home, and then all of a sudden something happens that completely changes the momentum of the game, and that's how we're able to win it. And we have not suffered a goal at home. We have not suffered a goal at home.
You don't count on us missing opportunities too much anymore. Ariel Lassiter isn't on the team anymore, so we might actually
He had an assist
finish
this last game yesterday.
Who? Oh, Lassiter?
Ariel Lassiter and Bryce Duke. They played a Canadian team in the CONMEBOL something, where two Canadian teams, Montreal played another Canadian team, and they won 2-0 with Lassiter having an assist. So eat it.
Yeah, I apologize for Chris. He was a big fan of both Lassiter and Duke, and he is very upset that they got traded away. But nobody's really gonna miss them. It's fine.
I will.
So on that counter, is Basi the one that's leading the charge? Is that who the center backs are looking for to kind of push the ball up and connect with the forwards?
Well, first of all, they're looking for Herrera. That's our reference, So Artur mainly.
He didn't play last week because of the red card, correct?
Yes. That was. I have yet to know how a veteran like him, with 2 minutes left in the game,
that's insane.
The second yellow card. And some people are saying he did that on purpose. No, he did not. He did on purpose to not be at a away game that is so crucial that looked on paper that we were actually favorites. To not be there, no, thank you. And I'm not biting that. And it was just a lack of focus. I don't understand that. The game was actually, I don't even understand why he was still on the field being 3-0. Like, first of all, he's an older player. Save him up, because they've been saying that he's going to have some games where he needs to not play because he's older, right? So if that's the case, why is he still on the field? Yeah, why is he still on the field? Like, to me, that's like little things like that I'm puzzled by Ben Olsen. It's hard for me to figure out this guy, man, because he does things that just doesn't make sense to me. And I get it in terms of level and respect for Sebas. If he's just going to come in for 10 minutes, it's a little bit disrespectful for a player with this caliber and salary and things like that. It's just, it was kind of like Ronaldo coming in for the last 10 minutes in Man United. It's just a little bit disrespectful. So I do get that.
That is very disrespectful. I remember that.
Yeah. So, and I think that's why in the last games he hasn't even played a minute, because before then he was coming in with 9 minutes left. And then to me, it's more puzzling when I have the general manager saying that, well, but when he comes in, he has to take shots. He has to finish. And I'm like, dude, he's there for 9 minutes. What do you expect? He's there for, and then what do you expect from Corey Bird? He's out there 82 minutes, not taking a single shot. So I don't understand these necessarily, because it seems like he's willing, as long as his mentality, it's easy, it's old school. It's kind of like, if you don't suffer a goal, then you don't lose the game.
Yeah.
So and I don't think he believes in the players he has, because if you believe in the players that you have, you're not putting basically 11 playing defense.
Well, that's the hardest part about the whole thing, to be perfectly honest. I mean, and aside from that, getting a little bit further away from the goal, when it comes to Tate Schmidt and his impact, how do you think that's going to take on the team's performance this coming weekend?
Well, I mean, he got injured a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he's out for the season. So, I mean, he had a goal in the season and he was doing very good. He was actually being one of those players that he'll go all the way from the back on the wings.
He was productive.
Yeah, he was very productive. So I think the team is still trying to figure out who to best put him in his place. And I mean, this is a team in work in progress. It hasn't worked what I've seen to replace him. And I mean, we had Daniel Stairs on the other side, which is kind of playing out of position too, but he's doing pretty decent so far for being out of position. I think, as a matter of fact, I think that's the player, before we even tried to find a striker, I think that's the position that they're trying to focus on to bring a good replacement for him. We just had someone picked up from waivers. My memory doesn't recall it. That's a role player. That's someone that gives too many gaps on the back. So I don't think he's the solution for what the Dynamo is looking for. I think it's just basically buying time, giving rotation, cheap guy to come in with some veteran leadership and experience, but it's just not the experience. And the player that I'm missing as I'm scrolling through, as a matter of fact, is Chase Gasper. He was just on with the Galaxy, but he hasn't played a single minute this season. So don't tell me that's the player that is going to come in to be the starting player.
I want to say I don't want to misspeak, but isn't he the one that had like an alcohol problem and that's why he wasn't playing?
Yes.
Okay.
He had some problems before. Yes, he had some problems before.
Let me tell you, a lot of people in the state of Texas got some alcohol problems. So he might have some alcohol problems if he keeps playing around and finding out.
I mean, all these losing seasons, man. Like don't blame. Like I mean, we gotta do something about it.
Listen, it's just like Lucho Lau Rodriguez just said. He's gonna be drunk. Right, Lucas just added earlier. There's no way he's watching the game sober, right?
Well, I do want to get to something Lucho said, because Lucho said no Arroyo, no Yedlin, no Drake, no Miller. Has all of this been confirmed? Because I hadn't heard any of that.
That sounds like a disaster.
I haven't heard any of that. I need somebody in the chat if you have a chance, and I'll look on my side,
guys.
But I haven't heard any of that. But anyway,
if
we're missing all those players. Is Hector Herrera officially back? Red card, he'll be back. Now, you guys scrapped out a point last week, right? Much because of Clark. But if Herrera would have played, would it have been much different? Like,
yes.
Is he that big of an impact player?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, for example, and I'm looking at how we set up last week, okay, on the lineup, and I'm seeing players completely out of position, okay? So, for example, on the position number 5, I have Bassi over here as a starter, okay? Yeah. And remember, I told you that Arturo was the position 5. Well, Arturo was the position 6 or 7 on the field. And it probably was the worst. It was the worst game he did in the season so far, because he wasn't able to compensate where he was supposed to be in doing the transitions. The team didn't exist offensively. There was no offense whatsoever, okay? And the reason why was because everyone was just setting up, defending, being out of position. Bassi is going to back, which doesn't allow him to be forward and receive the ball when the team has it. The first touch from Herrera or a midfielder down there. So that was a problem. Then Arturo is misplaced too, so he's going to be 2 back. And what's going to happen is basically what I saw was a back line of 5, 6 sometimes, and then another front line of 3, and then maybe 1 up there on the front. And that one would receive the ball, dribble 1, 2 times, and see the defender lose it, and let's go back to these.
I feel like it's crazy, because I feel like what's going on is we both as teams are suffering from the same thing, where there's just people just overcompensating for missing play. And it's kind of the same thing, right? You guys aren't scoring goals. We're not scoring goals. We're overcompensating on defense. You guys are overcompensating on defense or in the midfield. I mean, not necessarily in the midfield, but you kind of get where I'm coming from. It's sort of the tale of the two ends that are the same. At this point, it's like somebody mentioned earlier, we're just watching the game to see who's the better of the worst at this point.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm not going to say that that's necessarily false.
Yeah.
Look, Houston has 10 points. We can't be counting on them too much.
Yeah. They're not bad.
These teams actually look kind of similar in many things. Okay, so 8 goals scored. It's the same thing. Both of them have 29 corners. Let's see, like you can't make these up. 29 corners, both of them, okay? Both of them are struggling a little bit of spaces, especially to finish off offensively, right? And then struggling with gaps between lines that are being explored by other teams, and of course injuries too. I mean, we're talking about Schmidt, but you guys lost the midfielder too, Gregory. And it was, to me, it was the reason why you guys started losing. I mean, you win the first 2 games, then you come to NYC, and boom, he's out for the season, and then you lose that game, and you lose all the other 4. So,
I think a lot of people have, when we say that Gregory was the reason, a lot of people tend to say, "Oh, but it's not our defense because they're not scoring a lot on us. It's because we have no offense." But people aren't understanding that the reason we have lost a lot of offense is because we have our 8s that are usually contributing on offense now playing that 6 role, and they're staying back. They're not allowed to push up as much. So although technically Gregory wasn't an offensive player, it did affect our offense, because now we have offensive-minded players that contribute that aren't going to push up. And also, Gregory used to fall back a lot. He used to help that back line when our wing backs would push up. But because we don't have Gregory there and we don't have natural six playing and helping in the back line, we're all of a sudden being caught with our pants down when people are catching us on the counterattacks. So Gregory was, while he was healthy, you wouldn't have thought it would have made as big of a difference. But as soon as he wasn't there, you realized how important Gregory was to everything going on offense and on defense.
He's your Herrera.
And at this point, like Lucas just said, we might have to start Ulloa again this Saturday. It's over. Like, I mean, if people are looking at Ulloa as the starter, it's going to be bad news bears for us.
I think that's what has me the most worried. Now that we had a couple people in the chat tell us that this weekend we're going to have no Miller, no Dixon Arroyo, and no Robert Taylor. I'm not sure why Robert Taylor, but no Robert Taylor. That was confirmed today in the press conference. I didn't hear it. But if that is true, we're missing those 3 key players. And on top of that, we traded away 2 players over the last week. So we're coming in bare boned because our midfield. What are we doing? I mean,
we're coming in with janitors are going to be playing the soccer game. That's what's going to happen.
Chris, I'm going to ask you, Chris. Who's going to be? Well, I'm assuming we're going to play 2 up top, Joseph and Campana, right?
I hope Campana's there.
We all assumed that we were going to play 5 in the back once we got Miller, but Miller's not there. So we're probably going to go with 4 in the back again. Yeah, so let's say we go 4 in the back. So let's say we go Yedlin on the right. We have Negri on the left. And then we have McVeigh and Christoph. That's our back line. Who's playing the midfield?
Mota? I mean, Bryce Duke is out of here. Lassiter's out of here, right? Taylor's not coming.
Taylor's not playing.
At this point, it's going to be probably Pizarro.
Yes.
It's going to be Mota. And
Stefanelli, I guess. Don't say that. I'll fight you. I do not want to hear that Ulloa is going to play.
You want to see Stefanelli? He's done absolutely nothing.
Would you rather see Stefanelli or would you rather see Ulloa?
I'd rather see Ulloa because I actually.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next topic because I don't want to hear Chris
get out of here.
I don't want to hear you talk about Ulloa anymore.
It's funny. It's funny you guys said that because like what I noticed is that you guys switch mainly to a 3-4-1-2. That's what I saw. In on
defensively.
Because on offense you guys formation were using, and on defense you guys were switching to a 4-2-3-1 to just bulk up more guys on the back. That's why you mentioned the 4 guys on the back. To provide more numbers defensively. And so, I mean, I won't be surprised because you guys are missing everybody to just do the 4-2-3-1, and it's a game on the road on top of it, a team that, honestly hasn't allowed any goals, but has been winning. So I feel like you guys are going to be very conservative and you guys, tend to play from the back, and you don't. The thing is
funny.
If you eye pressed, sorry, let me just finish. If you eye pressed against Houston, that's the one thing we're struggling against. It's the eye press. A team that presses constantly got our number. A team that doesn't press on us and allow us to build from the back slowly and then just use those counter attacks fast, that's our key to win the game. And I think that you guys match very poorly against our style. And now we
don't press high. I think in the beginning of the season we started pressing high, but we're not pressing high.
No.
And we also play out of the back. I don't even know. I don't see what we're gonna do because the thing is, last year Neville was very defensive minded. He was very defensive minded, and everybody was criticizing because he would just kind of play the counter and just wait for it, run it up the wings, and lob it into the middle. That was the game plan up until we got to the point where we got Pozuelo in the summer transfer. Then we started attacking a little more. This year, completely different. We're just attacking and just praying that calendar saves us, because I understand that we've only given up, I want to say, how many goals we've given up? 8 or 9 goals. But we should have given up a ton more.
You guys have
because Drake has saved us on numerous occasions. And on top of that, once a team takes the lead on us, they play a low block and they just allow us to pass the ball, short passes back and forth, and they just wait. And so everybody sees the stats and they're like, oh, you had 65% possession, 70% possession. You guys really dominated. No, they allowed us to do that because they knew we couldn't do anything in the final third. So what are we? We're not a threat. So they're just waiting for a turnover and then to counter, because other than that, so that's what happened the last game. The last game against Dallas, they dominated the first 30 minutes until they got that first goal. And after that, they just sat back and just let us play around with the ball because we had no way to break them down.
And that's what I see is that you guys do those two lines with four. And then what happens is, you have the ball and you try to build from the back because you eventually are looking for the lines to shift towards you, right? To come forward on the field. And then when the lines comes towards the field, they will expect gaps to open up. And then that's how they do the attack. The thing is, you guys are predictable. I've said this before. You guys are predictable, and now the teams are just waiting. Instead of like pressing, like, no, you come slowly, come over here. Come over here. We're gonna stay compact here.
We'll wait for you.
Yeah, and then when you come over here, eventually you got more numbers, so we're gonna be able to take the ball. And now you came my way, and I see there's too many gaps between those two lines of four, and now we're gonna take advantage of that and counter it. Then when we have the ball, and by the way, you guys like to play on the wings when you have the ball, right? With Pizarro and stuff, because that's what he likes to do, to move to the wings.
Yep.
Every time he gets the ball in the middle, he's just goes to the wing. He's like, this is not good. Okay, I need to be over here by the corner flag, and
mostly on the left wing.
Yeah. So it's predictable, right?
And that's where Negri pushes up basically as well. So they're both like in the same area.
Yeah, I saw like there was a thing where they're basically combining both the ball, but it was just a combination back and forth,
overlapping runs between them two, or back and forth,
And I was like, okay, but this is not going anywhere, Nope. And then what happens is you guys get from the poison you're trying to give is the poison that you ended up receiving, which is then what a lot of teams gonna go use the wings against Seattle. And then when you guys I'm gonna use the wings, right? I got the ball, right? And I'm on the wing, right? So now your lines shift towards where the ball is. And what happens is now I do the cross,
that back post.
Nothing, wide open. And someone is gonna cut from the back and be wide open.
Well, and from what it sounds like, the way that you're explaining it, it seems that that's a strength that the Dynamo have.
Yes.
So would that be something that you would consider is the biggest strength of the team?
Yeah. And I mean, our corner takers, which is Herrera, and I've been very anti-zone defense on corners, even as a coach and stuff like that. It's what everybody is doing. It's fashionable. Even the other day, I asked one of the Dynamo 2 players from MLS Next, why is everyone doing it? And he, as a player, also had mixed feelings about it. He's like, I understand it, but there's so many.
It opens up to confusion, and it opens up for a little confusion also.
And that's what you want in the area is confusion, and it's just, if you man enough and cover your guy, and you have more numbers, so when the ball comes their way, then you can have your teammate compensate and double team the other guy. Okay, but everyone is zoning, and we are good, and we got Herrera to take these corner kicks, which he's very good at positioning the ball in the spot that he wants. And so that we are good on corners. We don't have a lot of those, not in this past game. We actually didn't have a single corner against New York. Because if we had corners, we actually been having a lot of corners, but then we didn't have any corner this past game. So it really took a toll on the stats when you look at it, because 28 corners for both teams, it doesn't seem as real as what you are seeing because we didn't have any corners last game. But and that's why I said a little bit ago, you guys match up very poorly against us because I feel like our strengths are your guys' weaknesses, and your guys' strengths are just, honestly what we like y'all to do. So that's why on paper, to me, I feel actually, and I've said this before, but I don't like to predict anything because as a Dynamo supporter and analyst to this season, it's been tough for me to believe that I'm confident before I enter the match because I don't know what team I'm going to. But against Seattle, and with the roster that we have, and eventually we're going to have Eric Sviatchenko, we signed from Midtjylland. He's going to be a center back, and that is going to also help us compensate for Schmidt because we're going to have a very strong, a very center backs are like the coaches in the defense, because they're out there in the middle and they're supposed to be vocal, and he's very good with English too. So it's going to allow everybody to Escobar to be more comfortable and everybody to be more flexible on the defense to compensate the miss for Schmidt. So I think we're going to be okay on that sense of compensating for Schmidt, kind of circling back to that question you asked me. But it's going to take time, just like you guys. We sign players, so it's going to take. Even if your new signings were to play, honestly, these will.
So it's still going to take time.
Yeah, because they don't know everybody. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know nothing. I just heard the interview from our GM. They said that last year when they signed Herrera, the younger players were kind of shy on the field because he was such a superstar. And to me, I thought that he was like, you must be kidding me. Like the teammates are kind of shying away. They kind of starstruck. And he was kind of like saying that that's the reason why he wasn't that good last year. And honestly, the reason why it's not good, and especially you see with players that come from foreign countries, the MLS is a unique style, and I think it's a league that we don't know the style yet. That's why a lot of people struggling finding talent that looks good on paper, but then when they comes, he plugs in.
Doesn't translate.
It doesn't translate because this league is still trying to figure out their identity in the style of it. That's why every time someone signs someone from overseas, I'm like, okay, that's good, but I don't know if it's going to be good here, to be honest with you. And
you said
that's a good thought.
You said your strength, Hector Herrera, and his corners. I'm assuming free kicks. He takes the free kicks also. So
he's got a big view from the outside corner. He had a free kick from the outside corner of the box, where it's kind of like you shoot straight to the net, right? But you try to see if there's a deflection there. Between use the confusion, nobody deflected it, and the goalie wasn't expecting the ball to go in the opposite corner, and there was a goal. So that's we use the edges a lot, try to stretch out the field. We try to use the counter attack in speed to be able to compensate Yal, and then Artur usually gets the ball back from the defenders, and then he sets up Herrera a little bit more forward. Herrera receives the ball, and he progresses about 1-2 touches, looks up as players doing movement, and then he does a mid-long range pass to try to progress the ball a lot faster that way. And that's how we tend to use the counterattacks, especially using the wings and then cutting back.
Lovely. Everything you say makes me fearful of this weekend. So make me feel a little better.
Make you feel a little bit better. The weaknesses?
What weaknesses?
Well, I mean, we still are a team that is trying to evolve, finding its identity. As well. So if you guys pressure us, and I said it, if you bring more energy, if you pressure us, or if you match our energy, I feel like you got our number. It's about energy, and I think that I've said it a little bit ago that the differences between playing away and home is you do feed off the crowd, you do tend to not get nervous sometimes when things are not going your way. But if you guys start the game strong, which is basically, I noticed that I feel like there's a pattern here. Every single coach against us have told the players to come off strong right off the game. Just bring everything. And they bring everything. Yeah. Regardless if it's at home or not, most teams tend to dominate it in the first minutes. And if you guys somehow, some way, were able to score the goal, I feel like they'll crush us.
Yeah. Okay.
Like they'll literally damage the entire game plan.
I can see that.
Then they'll be like, well, we haven't suffered a goal at home. We found this to be our fortress. Then there's going to be some, the noise of the fans, a little bit confused, all that, right? And now you guys are a little bit more confident, right? Okay, now we're on the road. We scored a goal, right? So now maybe we can be a little bit more defensive, right? And we struggle when we don't use the counter. We struggle to have possession and be able to create opportunities of goals. And I've said it, we don't
when you're chasing.
Right. We don't shoot the ball a lot. So because when we see that you guys are stuck in the box, we are not feeling confident that our shot is going to go in. It might be deflected, whatever the reason is. So it's about energy, and it's just not energy too, but it's like routines that players have that when you are on the road, you don't have it, such as having breakfast at home, whatever it is, the familiarity and stuff like that. And it seems like kind of mundane. It seems like pathetic even from a professional standpoint, but it does make a difference. And it does make a difference when a lot of these players are still young players. And they're not comfortable because they're still trying to get to know each other. And
you guys are averaging 4 shots on target per game.
Yeah.
So
but when they go,
opportunities.
When they go, they go.
Yeah, no. Look, out of 28, out of 28, you're 37% on shots on target converting. So Yeah, when they
That's
go,
pretty
they
good.
go. But
And that
yeah, that is
percentage
pretty good.
actually to me, as a new fan to this sport, it sounds like it's not bad.
That's good.
1 out of 3 shots,
It's
right?
the
That sounds
it's
good.
the eighth best in the league when
I'll take
they
it
get it. Yeah.
when they get it, but
When-
they haven't got it. And there's been a problem, and this team has been trying to address it. Is like,
The
well,
final third.
yeah, because we're like, we are good defensively now. Okay, I got that. I mean, we are so good defensively that we had about 36 clearances out of the box, not the box, but like the 20 yards. You got the box plus 20 yards off the field. We had 36 clearances last game. 36 clearances.
Wow.
That's pathetic. That's we were like crushed, and then Steve Clark saved the day. But we also did a pretty good job defensively because we spent 90 minutes defending the ball in our last third.
Yeah.
36 clearances. Can you think about that? So defensively we are there. Offensively we're not.
So then does that mean, because you brought up a couple of things that will sort of showing the weaknesses on the team. So I guess we're sticking to the same thing. I mean, it's something that can be able to keep us optimistic as Inter Miami fans then.
Sure. That's why I don't know what Houston I'm going to see every game. Okay. And I've seen it every single game, even at home, we have been dominated some way, until something happens that changes the momentum of the game. And that's going to be, I think the key is you guys controlling their shift, or their shift not controlling, where the energy just gets in the crowd, and I'm not even saying that it's going to be sold out or whatever it is, but there's a certain swag now to the team, we go away, we're not confident, we've been losing all points away, but now this is our fortress, and we kind of say it over here, hold it down, right? They are literally holding it down.
That's the hashtag. Yeah, that's the hashtag.
They are holding it down, but they are not really being strong offensively. But they are holding it down on the back. And
you guys sound like the 2022 Inter Miami team. Because we knew that on the road. I mean, we knew that on the road we were going to lose, but we felt like at home we're going to win every game. Doesn't matter who you play, that we were going to win. Now this year we thought that that's where we were going. Right, we won the first 2 games at home, then we lost the next 2 on the road. But then we lost to Chicago, and everything's just been downhill since that loss to Chicago, because now we're not winning or at home or away. So we just suck all over.
Well, and for me as a new fan to this, I look at FIFA a lot. And so the one thing that keeps me optimistic is looking at the FIFA team. And I'm just going to bring the team up here real quick, right? And so we got a couple 60s. We got like a couple 70s. Obviously, the best player is Herrera, right? I mean, but I'm liking our chances if we're playing FIFA.
Okay,
Our
but you're
team
not
is
playing
much
FIFA.
better.
Yeah, but that's and on top of it, you were telling me that you're gonna have 3 guys that are normally not there on the starting lineup. So what are
Schmidt? Yeah, Smith.
Yeah, I ended up picking up a picture online, and there was a couple guys I couldn't find there. I mean, they were 50s anyway, so it wouldn't have helped you anyway.
Yeah, but some of these players are overrated, man. I think that Debit, for example, on the back over there, I mean, this guy is young, man, and he's very promising. He has a very impressive physique, tall, skinny, lengthy, very athletic. I think he's like, if I look at all these players in terms of like prototype of like, if you work hard on them 101, they can really improve in the next 2-3 years. I think that Adebe is one player that nobody's talking about, that I think that if he really focuses and continues to work, might be one of the biggest defensive players in this league, because his body, his skills, his physique, and even speed, it's there. It just needs to be worked on 101 more.
And just so everybody knows, because some people might not be familiar with Hadebe, the center back for Houston, his first name is Teenage. Is it Teenage or Teenager?
Yeah.
Teenager. The wildest name in MLS probably. His name is Teenager Hadebe.
Teenage.
So,
he's
teenage. Oh, no, Teenage.
He's from Zimbabwe, so that's, they got those interesting names,
But Teenage, that's interesting.
Well, and just getting back to what I was saying, Lucas is saying a 50 rated would still score or ball out on us. So, Lucas, I love the energy. I really love the energy. But now, Bruno, because I'm Bruno too, so I could say Bruno like that.
Sure.
I want to know what your prediction is. All right. I want to know what you think the game score is going to be. I think I might have an idea, but I want to hear what you have to say about the game first.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a 2-0 for Houston. And now, I mean, I don't want to go farther than the 2-0, but I mean, you guys seem like you're really going to be missing some key pieces, and I was expecting those pieces to be already plugged in, and you'll be the surprise, because even Ben Wilson said this week you guys did add 2 weeks to prepare, so that extra week does.
That's why I'm surprised also.
And I mean, they asked him, and he was a little bit confused too what the lineup was going to be for Yao, because with the new players, he wasn't going to sure that they were going to play or not. And apparently he's not going to be playing, so that's definitely a downside for Yao. So I don't really, and I know that maybe Saturday night comes and I might be completely wrong, and and then you guys can press play on these, and I look like a fool over here. But I just don't see from a team that is so confident at home, not allowing a single goal, receiving a team that struggles to score goals,
that hasn't scored a goal on the road,
right? And now missing 3 key pieces down there, it's now all of a sudden going to wake up and do something opposite of that. I just don't see it, not to sound like a Debbie Downer or whatever, but it doesn't make sense to me. And there's we are getting some pieces back. So, on top of that, we should look a little bit different. And there's a certain level of we lost, but we didn't play the league. We tied, but we didn't play a league this past game. So there's a certain swag into the players, we felt embarrassed too out of that tie. So it's time for us to go back home and improve that. All these doubters that we can do much better than that. And I mean, it's not like we're playing LAFC. You guys are not LAFC. So
not even close.
and that's why I feel like this week, that it should be
maybe a little more challenging.
Maybe a little bit more challenging.
No, he's saying it's not going to be challenging, sir.
Oh, it's not going to be as challenging.
I don't think so, man. I don't think, but I was surprised too, because I felt pretty good last week. Getting
the Red Bulls.
On the road. Yeah, and I felt like it was going to be a win, maybe 1-0 or something. But then, I mean, they did get the tie, but so I might be wrong, man. And it's the thing about the MLS, man. It's fun to watch because sometimes you just never know. Sometimes you just never know. It's one of those leagues, kind of like the Premier League too. You might have the last place team winning against the first place team some weekends, and I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't know, man. I think that a 2-0, we scored the first goal, and then you guys kind of freak out a little bit, and then we take advantage a little bit more from the counter and finish off with the second. I feel like that's where the game might be headed.
And so what do you think, Danny? What's on your mind in terms of a prediction here?
The fact that we're not going to have Miller, I think, hurts, but we have McVeigh and Kristoff, which is what we had all. Our backline is going to be very similar to what we've had all year so far. It hasn't given up too many goals. Again, I think it's because other teams stop attacking and they just allow us to hold the ball. So I think that those numbers are deceiving, but it is what it is. Statistically, we don't give up a lot of goals with that backline. So I don't think that because Houston isn't necessarily great offensively, I'm not too worried about them scoring too much on us. I think Pizarro and Stefanelli playing in the midfield isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world, with Mota holding down the 6. I would hope that after 2 weeks prepare that they'd have Campana and Joseph a little more ready. Look, we got Campana back two weeks ago, and he only played 60 minutes. I think we can expect Campana to play a little longer, and I'm holding out hope that Campana and Joseph can finally spark some magic with these 2 weeks. I don't know what exactly Neville's going to pull, but we have to try something different. I think that maybe we can muster out a 1-1 draw. And believe me, that
it's asking for a lot.
You know what? It's sad that asking for 1 goal is a lot, but I really do think we can't look this bad this long with decent offensive players. Joseph, even though he's lost a step, Joseph still has to have something left in that tank. And we've been waiting for Campana to play up top with him to finally give him some space so he can move around, maybe get behind the defense. Now, I understand that Houston hasn't given up a goal. that they play a deep back line. They play for the counter, but we have to do something. We have to play through the middle and find Campana and Joseph. I think that Campana finally gets on the board with this season. I'm predicting 1-1, 1-1 draw.
And I have a question, Bruno. Do you think that a 1-1 tie would be a win-win for both teams?
No,
I think
Houston
that,
wants to win this.
no, we want to win this for sure because it's at home and
Yeah.
it's against y'all. That y'all haven't looked good, and then on top of that, missing some key pieces. So I don't think there's any excuses to not, because we
It'd
need
be a
these
win
points.
for us.
We need these points. If we
Yes.
are not getting points on the road, we definitely need to get these points. And on top of that, you guys, it's also a must win or a must something, at least a point.
Yes.
Points,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's 5 games, man. Like it's 5 games with nothing. Like, and now 2 weeks. What's the excuse now? You had 2 weeks to prepare, and a lot of y'all have been criticizing Neville for being predictable. So now you had 2 weeks to prepare. What can you pull out of your hat, Magic Hat?
But
Well,
and that's why I feel like, I'm sorry to cut you off, Chris, but that's what I
Yeah,
feel
go
like.
ahead.
We don't know what to expect from Neville this week. I don't want to predict what he's going to come out, whether it be formation, attack, whatever. I don't know what to expect, but I'm expecting that he knows he's on the hot seat and that he's going to try something different. So I'm expecting that whatever he does, I'm hoping it works. And because the way the Red Bulls looked against you guys gives me some hope, even though it was in New York or New Jersey, whatever, even though it was on the road, it gave me some hope watching them, the way they were pressing. Like I told you all year, he's been very offensive minded. So he's been attacking. Now on that final third, we haven't done anything, but we didn't have Campana for basically all but 60 minutes of it. So I'm hoping that changes things a little bit and we can muster out at least 1 goal. And I'm giving you guys a goal just because I can't imagine us
They're at
winning.
home.
Because I would love to say 1-0, but I just can't imagine us winning. I'd be happy with a draw. So I guess that's why I'm throwing out 1 goal for you guys. But I do think that we get on the board and that you guys score on us also. So I'm going to say 1-1.
Here's yeah, go ahead, Bruno.
Keep in mind, we were crushed, 36 clearances, and we still only allowed 1 goal.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
I know.
And-
But look,
and-
Campana is our DP. He's our playmaker. He's the person that's supposed to carry us. So because he's that guy, he's finally back. And I would hope after 2 weeks off and finally getting a little rust off those 60 minutes last game, that maybe he gives us some magic. Again, I'm not saying that I'm convinced of this, but I do think that there's a good chance because with 2 weeks to prepare for this one game, you have to come out and show me something. Because if we lose, and I'm going to feel really, really down because that's going to be the longest losing streak in franchise. I know we had a very short history, but we've done this twice. We've lost 6 games in a row. This will be the 3rd time and the first time in 2 years. So we'll be down bad at that point, going up against Columbus the following week in Columbus. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
And what I was trying to say was I was thinking earlier about the prediction, what I think it might be, and I thought 1-1 is reasonable. But let me tell you something. This is kind of a bad storm that we're going through because even though we had a week off, we lost 2 players. We gained 2 players who, at this point, we don't even know who's going to be playing this weekend. We don't know at what capacity people are going to be playing because we have Joseph Martinez and we have Campana, who Campana played 60 minutes. At this point, Yedlin's coming back, but is he coming back? How much time is he going to play? If not, is Neville Jr. going to be playing right back? There's a lot of things that are just sort of whirlwinding around. I hope that we get our asses kicked 4-1. That's what I hope. Because if we're gonna lose, we gotta lose big. I want this to be a big.
You know what,
loss.
Chris? I take it back. We're gonna win 1-0, and I'm gonna rub this shit in your face. What the hell you mean we hope we lose 4-1? What is wrong with you? We're gonna win 1-0. Lucas, you watching this? No pain on this face. We're gonna win 1-0. We're gonna get on that W column. We're gonna get 3 points. And you know what's gonna happen next week? Everybody's gonna be really hyped because it's gonna say we won on the road. We had 3 points. We finally stopped the losing streak. We're going to go play and kick Miami FC's ass in FIU. Then we have Columbus. We have Miller coming back, and he's going to debut. Dixon Arroyo is going to debut. Campana scored, so everybody's hyped. And everybody's going to be feeling great. And I'm going to play this clip back for you, Chris, and I'm going to shove it in your face.
We're gonna get our asses kicked.
Looks like Crazy is ready for from Dallas Cowboys to the Houston Texans, man. You know, down there, man. It was like the new honorary Houston Dynamo fan up in there. But
this guy said 4-1 Houston, and that not only that he's predicting that. If you predict it is one thing. You said you hope for it. You make me sick.
I hope for it.
All
If
right.
we lose, we gotta lose big, Papi.
No, I don't want to lose big. What is that? All right, Bruno. We're reaching the end here, but I did want to ask you one thing. We're very proud of our supporter section, right? We love going to games, even if the team is bad, because we have a great time at the stadium. We have Vice City, we have Southern Legion, we have the Siege. We have great supporters groups, awesome environment. They come out and they support on the road at home. I don't know how many people are going to be out there this weekend, but it's a great experience when we come to the stadium. How is it at Houston Dynamo games? Like, what's the biggest supporters group? What's the environment like? It's in downtown. So I don't know if it's anything like it is in Cincinnati, where being downtown, everybody goes to bars and then they go to the stadium, or is it kind of like is it tailgating? Like, what's the experience like in Houston?
Okay, so it depends on the games, but a lot of people go across. I don't want to say across. It is across the street to Pitch 25. Which is a soccer bar, and a lot of people just hang out down there. There's even like an area where you can play soccer and things like that. So it's a pretty neat bar.
Oh, nice.
And a lot of the supporters group, that's kind of like their tailgate. It's done down there. Of course, there's special events, first game of the season and stuff like that, where it's actually done in the parking lot. The stadium is closer to the downtown/museum district. It's almost across from the Houston Astros Stadium. Which they share the parking lot, which sometimes can be a pain in the butt for it, especially if both teams are playing at similar times.
Sure.
Because they do take priority. The Astros take priority on the parking lot over.
And they have a lot higher attendance for sure.
In recent years, I mean, because I remember when I used to go there, and they used to feed me peanuts and beg me to be in the stands when they were that awful, So, but yeah, lately they've been doing good. The supporter section, it's amazing, man. I'll be honest with you, man. I have tickets for the regular section, but I find myself just going down there and stand up on the supporter section just to feel the vibe of a true soccer game. Good people down there. You got the Surge, the Battalion. You got multiple. We have about 5 of them, 5 organized groups, and good people down there. It's not like you're going to go down there for a fight. Did I actually felt like a bouncer, man. We had some LA Galaxy fans near the supporter section, and this lady got drunk and started getting on the face of a Dynamo lady, and it was like cursing in Spanish, and I had to go down there and I had to kind of like escort her out, and yeah, it was interesting. And she was
Fun times.
She was yelling at me in Spanish, and I was like, "Ooh, that's kind of sexy." But but anyway, so
you gotta have you come to Miami, because you'll feel sexy all the time.
Man, I'm single now, so
it's sexy time, Bruno.
It's sexy time all the time down here.
Like it, man. I like it. I might. Nah. I was gonna say something dumb, which was I'm gonna be a Miami fan now, but now I'm not gonna.
Don't worry. Wait till the summer when we get Messi. I know you love Messi.
Then you can come over.
No, I'm good.
We were talking before the show started. Messi and Ronaldo. For those that don't know, Bruno is Portuguese, so.
It's Ronaldo, but it's a good vibe, Like, I wish there was more people at the game, especially like when some good teams, good players, especially like LA Galaxy, everybody wanted to see Chicharito, so there was 19,000 people in there. It was a good ambience. And things like that, But then sometimes where Miami is coming to town, I don't know, man. I feel like maybe we're going to have attendance of like 12, 14,000, I believe. I mean, you guys are not winning a lot, so
it's not going to be a big draw. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Chicharito, you guys have a high, I'm assuming, Mexican population. So is there like a big Latin influence in your supporters groups? Like, do you guys do the Spanish chants or their English chants? Like, how's that over there?
Yeah, it's mainly Spanish,
Okay.
and that's something that I've spoke the other day on my podcast, that I wish that we target more the Spanish community, even though a lot of the fans are Spanish Latinos. And because I feel like if we actually really target those communities, especially more outside Houston, where these communities tend to live outside Houston, more in the suburbs area. That's something that I've talked about. This idea of like every single Major League Soccer stadium needs to be downtown, I think it's a little bit outplayed. I think depends on the community that you are in. And I think that if, at least in Houston area, if the stadium was a little bit more on the outskirts, more people, especially the lower communities, lower tier income communities, would have access to the games. I mean, for $15, you can buy a ticket for the supporter section. So you can't beat the price here. It's not about price. It's not about money. It's about, a lot of times, it's about the commute. Even for me, man, like driving 30 minutes downtown, crossing those roads, sometimes I'm like, do I feel like it, man? I don't feel like driving today, man, and I'm not going to do it. And that's kind of like what I wish it was a little bit different. And I know we will attract bigger crowds because, I mean, in Houston, we got such a big community, such diverse too, a lot of European influence too. So soccer is loved here, and you see it when Mexican teams come to NRG Stadium. There's 70,000 people there. Easy.
Wow.
Easy.
Yeah.
Golden Cup, they put the tickets for sale, and I saw that the tickets were going about $250 already.
Yeah, for sure.
Cup, because they coming with these Spanish, these Latino teams that coming from South America, and they want to go, they want to be there because it represents where they come from. But in the Dynamo, there's a sense of like disconnect that is not really targeting a lot of these communities. And I feel like a lot of these people would rather watch a Mexican League game on the TV rather than experiencing a real soccer game with their kids. And unless your kids, and I see it all the time, unless your kids tend to do some high school soccer or middle school soccer, then a lot of these Hispanics by themselves, they tend to shy away from going to the stadium unless they tend to have, either way they're involved in a supporters group or their friends are there or their kids that play soccer want to go.
We have that similar issue down here as far as distance goes, because our stadium's in Fort Lauderdale. Chris and I drive an hour to go to the stadium, where eventually, hopefully, we're going to open one in Miami, which will be a nice shorter drive, maybe 20, 25 minutes. But as of right now, it's an hour drive. So because a lot of our fan base is Miami-based, right? It has Fort Lauderdale following and support. But a lot of people in Miami are like, I'll wait till they come down here because it's too far of a drive. And it really is. Chris, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think that the issue is that there's less of an attachment in terms of the MLS team support versus their support for their home country. And so I feel like maybe that could be a part of it. And the problem is that it's generation by generation. The love, I guess, is not being passed down. So I think that might be where the discrepancy is. But it's like we said in the beginning, the MLS is growing and it's starting to get people to join in on what the culture is, on what the ambiance and the vibe and stuff is. And that's important. Yeah, then
I want to say one thing, and I don't want to get into this because it'll be like a debate and conversation all on its own.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here with Houston and like a lot of people choosing not to go to the games, this is why I say promotion and relegation in MLS won't work right now. Because if people aren't caring about the Houston Dynamo right now as an MLS team, send them down.
Who's going to care about MLS the Houston next. 2 team?
Yeah, right. And then it's like, okay, eventually they get back. Do you think that they're going to get a crowd or get people to care when they know that they're not in the big leagues right now? That works in other countries where it's been around for 100 years and that you're born into that following. But we're trying to grow the sport right now. So unfortunately, even though technically it would be good for competition, to grow the sport, or at least the league here in the United States, that's why I don't think it works. Exactly because of what Bruno said. And I don't want to get into it, but that's just what was going through my mind. Question for Bruno. What's your favorite food or dish?
I mean, I'm Portuguese, so it kind of answers, again, a question down there that I see it. So I have to say that it has to be Portuguese food, anything from a cozida portuguesa, which is basically a lot of dry sausage mixed together with all kinds of meat boiled together. It's good.
That sounds amazing.
And bacalhau, which is dry salted cod, you put it over water for 24 hours, and then you boil that sucker or you fry that sucker, whatever you want to call it. Everything, it's good on everything, man. And some people are like, oh, I don't know, man, fish. I'm not a fish guy. But every time I make it for someone, they're like, oh my God, is this even fish? And it's like, yeah, it's definitely fish.
I don't know about the fish dish, but the other one that sounded like a plate full of cholesterol, that sounded amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty fatty, man. It's only one of those things that you have once a year, and then you have to run for 26 miles and a half or so the next day. But yeah, that's my favorite dish, And of course, Portuguese pastries, but it's good food down there. It's good, man. And but we walk a lot down there. That's why we don't gain a lot of weight.
Yeah.
But of course, like burgers, man. Like King. I mean, there's. I think on the top food in the world, man. And some people are gonna look down on me by saying that, but man, there's something about a McDouble, man. There's something about a McDouble. I don't. You might be in Asia, you might be in Africa, whatever it is, but there's something about a McDouble, man, that is fattening. It's trash food, but man, it gets you hooked, man.
Hey
Yes,
man,
it does.
I love a good burger. All right, so we're hitting the end here. Chris, anything
Listen,
else you got for Bruno or for the
Yeah.
people listening?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was just asked to ask the question, and I'm trying to get rid of this, but it just seems like I can't get rid of this, Danny. And I'm gonna ask you, especially Bruno, since he was just talking about food. Let's just put that puppy up there real quick. You got the 5 options of steak, and you got the 6 options of toast. You got to pick one or the other. So where are we going here, Bruno?
Oh man, you guys are trying to set me up, man. I'm Portuguese, man. I'll be honest with you, like maybe this is like oversharing too much, but where I come from, like we cook the food and we don't put a lot of sauces because we like to taste like what food is
The
supposed to
actual
be.
natural flavor, yeah.
Yeah, instead of just some sauce. So and we cook it. So I have to go with number 5 because when I did come to America, I tried like this bloody thing that is not cooked. It's not even. What do you mean you're cooking? You're just cutting a piece of meat, putting in the plate. You know what I mean? And putting and then I actually got staph infections because my body wasn't accustomed to the blood from the stuff. So by health reasons, I have to go number 5. But if you tell me that you're cooking something on the number 1, that's not cooking. That's just butchering.
That
And
is
what
just
about the
butcher. You're basically
toast?
just
What
taking it
about
straight out of the cow.
What about the toast? I don't know about number 6, man. You're trying to get cancer down there? I don't know what's going on with that, man. But I mean, like I want to say maybe number 3, man. Like it's crunchy, it's nice, but kind of a little bit not too crunchy as well.
I'm with you. Number 3 all the way.
Like
Those are some of the best responses. And I thank you so much, Lucas, for reminding me to send the picture because you had some great responses, Bruno.
Appreciate it.
Well, Bruno,
you get a foreigner experience, I guess, into this American tradition.
It is. Bruno, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time. Go ahead and just one more plug for that website, which we plugged in the beginning, and you guys got to check it out. But go ahead, Bruno.
Yeah, just Houston Dynamic Dynamo at GoDaddySites.com. And I say these every time I say these sites, I kind of feel like I need to change it because I'm saying GoDaddy, and it's just I feel a little bit weird by saying that, so I might switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But so
go to Squarespace. Squarespace will get you nice.
There you go. Yeah, that sounds good. Hey, is that a plug or something?
No, they didn't pay me for that. I shouldn't have said it. We try not to plug anything but no, Squarespace is a place where we're gonna get our site. That's and nice. It doesn't have GoDaddy sites at the end of it. So,
but you can get all the tabs on there on the articles, podcasts. There's sometimes video conversations too. There's some of my memorabilia too because I collect game used stuff. Of course, because it's a Houston Dynamo, only has my collection of the Dynamo. But I do have a big collection, like even Portuguese teams and stuff like that. But I know that a memorabilia is not big in America yet. But it's more.
It actually is. It's pretty big.
For game used jerseys, it's more like trading cards and more like maybe bobbleheads and stuff, but not so much for used jerseys. At least I don't feel like. At least if you go to Asia, for example, man, these people pay $50K, $60K, $70K for Ronaldo's, Messi all the time. Arabia's too. It's crazy, man.
Well, I don't know about the 50, 60K, but we know somebody, Trav, who hosts Trav chats on Twitter Spaces on Thursday nights. He is a big time memorabilia collector. He goes ahead and he like buys jock straps and stuff. So he loves all that memorabilia stuff. All right, Chris. Anything else for the people listening? No,
we're gonna get our asses kicked this weekend.
Yes.
To everybody listening on audio or watching on YouTube, thank you for listening all the way to the end. We appreciate you guys. We'll be coming back on Monday to recap. I guess a 1-0 win against the Houston Dynamo, and we appreciate you guys. Bruno, thank you for taking the time. And Chris, you know what? I really hate you right now for predicting that. All right, guys. Thanks for joining, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you. Good one.